Hello, Mech fans! This is Duncan Fisher. Hold on firmly to your mana potions, fireballs, and familiars, because you are tuning in to your regularly scheduled episode of the First Circuit Podcast.
Welcome to the First Circuit Podcast 83,000. Tonight's hosts are Snuggles Time, Aether Mech, TTB, and Commander Lemming. Oh, well, I guess all we have is Biter.
I do feel so good.
Ian.
I'm literally dying right now.
Larsh.
That was kind of weird.
Old Bob. What happened? Tonight's topics are Mechwarrior 5 Countdown, Egg Shape Event, Invasion Mech Sale, Faction Play PTS, Battletech Urby Warfare, and the new specs for Mechwarrior 5 coming out.
Yeah, so what do you guys think of the Mechwarrior 5 Countdown stuffs?
Yeah, there's so many events going on like right now. I like it. The only problem I have with it are two things. Oldbobs rants. I think it's number 3 or 2. No, actually, it's number 5. Actually, with the stupid, depending on your group, UAV detections and UAV kills. I hate these. These are so irritating. But it's all dependent on your person. You're fighting with 11 other people on your team, and hopefully someone else on the other team drops a UAV, which doesn't happen that much when I'm playing. As far as like everything else, I do enjoy the just they're easy to do. Just every single day, log on until the final hours. It's really good marketing that they're doing this for Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries. The other issue I have is on day 3. They have premium time rewards, and so with premium time on day 3, it would have been cool if I had it on the first days, or even have the 5 days. Each day you get 1 day premium time for doing something easy. That would have been really cool. Would have been a little bit better for that to happen. But I suppose they went on to make it so day 3 you have 1, 2, 3 days left in final hours, or 3, 2, 1 then final hours, so people would get those things to play more, I guess, or something like that for the marketing. But like we always talk about, easy stuff to do. Log on, play the game for about 2 to 5 games. You get everything anyways.
Yeah, well, with the premium time, I don't actually see the issue this much this time around, because the most efficient way to do those events is in the last hours anyway, since then you can do all of the events at once. So you would technically get premium time immediately.
Yeah, it's true. You could just wait until the final hours and just kill them off.
I mean, to be safe, I wouldn't do it in the final hours. I would start a day early or so, but
yeah,
you don't need to do it every single day. Just one of the final days and go ahead and do all of it.
Yeah, I think this event, very easy hurdles to cross mostly, other than the freaking shooting down UAV thing. You just need to play the game. You get a whole bunch of stuff. The rewards are quite nice as well. There's lots of MC, lots of premium time, lots of C-bills. My first match I played, I think it was like 200 MC and 3 million C-bills or something like that. I earned a lot of the events on my first match. Though this structure of having a different event every day, it feels needlessly complicated in some ways. Like if you're really wanting to build up hype and such, I just much prefer the week-long events where you could sit down and play any time, rather than having to go through all the different events, figure out what's happening when is something coming out, how long do I have for it, when should I shouldn't need a journey planner to figure out a different event.
Yeah, I just kind of find it weird how much PGI is hyping up the end of the Mechwarrior 5 pre-order. Like, the best time to buy Mechwarrior 5 was months ago. I don't know why they're hyping up the pre-order so much now rather than back then.
I mean, are they worried that the news has died down, so they want to bring it back up again?
I mean, obviously, it just feels kind of weird. And it also makes me wonder what kind of countdown events we're going to get for the launch. I'm hoping full month daily events for the launch.
Mm-hmm.
That would be hilarious.
Every company's gonna want to get squeeze as much money as possible for for something they did develop. Every company does that. So if they could hype it more for more people to jump in and go buy this thing, go buy like Mechwarrior 5, they'll do that. I mean, what person goes into business not to make money?
Yeah, exactly.
And
the only issue is a typical press cycle. You want to only be hyping up the last couple months before release, because you're going to get the issue of people just getting really tired of hearing about Mechwarrior 5. And that's sort of what I feel a little bit when you go, oh my gosh, there's a pre-order. Oh my gosh, guys, there's a extra mechs for the pre-order. Oh my gosh, guys, the pre-order is ending.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's a pre-order. I know the game's still quite a ways away.
You do make a good point though, because marketing wise, it's like, okay, fine. I heard about the pre-order. I know about the pre-order. For all the people who did purchase it, but like generally though, like who the 6 people that haven't heard about it, they want to get their money too.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect everyone who hasn't purchased the pre-order by now is waiting for the game to be out and not pre-order it. Because honestly, there's no reason to not pre-order Community Edition if you're playing Mechwarrior Online. And this event is obviously targeted at Mechwarrior Online players. So I feel like it's overkill, but I don't know. PGI might prove me wrong from a business point of view.
Well, let's just hope it does well and makes a lot of money, so PGI can keep on building DLC for it. I guess.
My guess is at least the simple solution is they have somebody in charge of making an event every week, and this is one of the few times there's an actual event going on in MWO that they can sort of build things around. So they just took the opportunity to, use this as extra marketing.
Yeah. I guess. Still, I'm looking forward to what kind of launch countdown event we're gonna get.
So that was the event for. Now we got the egg shape event.
Well, it's ended, but we did discuss it last week. So we all got our Easter decals and other items like that. Even though I didn't mention it last time, but I just wasn't a fan of the Easter decals. They seemed weird looking.
They're okay.
They're alright.
I mean, just like all events, you do stuff, you get things, that kind of thing. And it wasn't too bad with 550 MC as far as just playing the game. So if you keep on doing that, you get some MC to spend on paint jobs and cockpit items, like whatever you want to, or not cockpit items, but just whatever you want to, basically, and buy more mechs.
It's a little bit too small an event. What I would have just a simple change is have one extra challenge, which is play in an urban mech, like the promotional images feature an urban mech.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of the only egg-shaped kind of mech that you could.
I mean, Stalker.
Could you imagine if they
Stalker
had
too.
play the urban mech and then they would give you the pattern, which is what's the pattern that has just
Mountain?
like
Give everyone the
layers?
Mountain line.
Yeah, and they'd be like, "Yep, you are now a like Easter egg," because it's like the 3 dipped colors.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
I'm gonna go ahead and make it right now.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
The promotional image does show mountain line on the Urby.
Yeah, they should. That should have been like a thing.
Okay. Okay, so that was the egg shape event. You guys have any more issues with it or anything?
Not really.
Yeah, a standard event every week. We pretty much get one now, and that draws us in to go and get all the things. So here we go. So next is the classic mech dropship deals and bonus clan invasion chassis sales.
Yes. So speaking of an option to spend your hard-earned money, I think the dropship sales we can skip. You just discussed those last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the dropship sales, yeah, but the mech based one shop.
The clan invasion sale, all of the original clan invasion mechs, Kid Fox, Adder, Nova, Stormcrow, Summoner, Timberwolf, Warhawk, and Direwolf are 50% off for standard variants, MC, and both Siebel both. So if you want to pick up one of those mechs, now would be the time. And perhaps more interesting, mech base and one-shot camos are also 50% off. So if you want to spend those MCs you just got from the countdown event, go get some one-shot camos. They're really cheap and they're really good.
Oh, you're right. And actually, the mountain line is on sale. Woo!
There you go. Paint your
There
Irby.
we go. There we go.
And to let everyone know, they did add the bonus mech sales later on. We did talk about this last week too. So,
well, so just one thing to mention: the invasion, the actual dropship deals. Those are a different selection of mechs. So these are the more old classic mechs available. Whereas last week it was like Night Stars and whatever.
Ah, okay.
Whatever. Okay. Next up we have the. Oh God, we're blowing through these like crazy. Faction. Okay, I'll Ian take most of this here because Ian, you're the only one that really did it, and I couldn't get in.
I mean, I didn't get an item, but at least I could launch the correct game.
Public test faction play update round 2.
Yeah, public test faction play. Quick story before we get into it. just before the podcast, we were trying to test out the new system, and I was sitting in queue, Bob was sitting in queue, we were trying to get into the scouting game, and Bob was like, hey, I found a match.
Shut
and
up.
I was like, how did you find a match? There are only 3 players looking for a match right now. We need 8. How did you get one? And yeah, it turns out Bob was playing faction play in the Mechwarrior client rather than the public test client.
I tried to say it was magic, but
I feel like this is a story I kind of have to share.
I was in the wrong place. I wasn't playing PTS or playing Faction Warfare, and I played. I'm like, why do I have a stock Intaro? And I go, that must be when I had the lore night when I made all like most of my mechs into stock. I'm like, okay, this sucks. And so I'm playing a stock Intaro in faction play on scouting. It's like, well, that didn't turn out too good.
You didn't have coffee, so we'll just give it to you on that one.
Okay, thank you.
We'll give you a pass.
Yeah, so for the actual thing that the second rounds offered, they implemented some of the stuff that was missing last part PTS, like the story panel. They now have a short description of the conflict you're fighting in. They have a short description of what mission or phase of the conflict you're currently in. And I mean, it looks good. It works. The example conflict they chose, which is repeating for the PTS, a 5-hour conflict, Merrick versus Steiner, is interesting if you actually read the text and look for context, with things like Janus Merrick being in command of the Free Worlds League in 3050, even though he died in 3037.
Yeah,
but
he's dead.
Let's not talk about it. It's PTS. Beyond that, I mean, it's kind of like I said a couple of podcasts earlier. The update to the PTS doesn't really change the way PTS works that much. You're locked into a faction, which is good for role play. It's kind of bad for balancing. If one side is overpopulated, you can't switch to the other side. But beyond that, it doesn't really change anything. Extra rewards are cool. I'm totally giving that. I like the extra rewards you're getting, but I don't think this change is really gonna revive faction play.
Well, this is the test type thing, and I'm sure they got other parts to this than what we're just seeing right now, though. I mean, I got high hopes for it. I plan to play faction play a little bit more than I normally do. If they do a good job. If it's just this, if it's just like we put text into the story now and we have a little bit of story mode, I'm like, you need to fix a lot more things than just this, type thing. If they really modify faction warfare into something that makes it like universal and like we just like I gotta go play faction warfare, to do that, then it'll be good. But if it's just these things here, it's not going to make it.
Yeah.
As I've said in previous casts, the changes they're doing to faction play are mostly incidental in my mind, and a bigger factor is just that the fact they've been really lazy with game balance the last couple of patches, and that has a much bigger impact on the game as a whole, including faction play.
Yeah. I know, like we'll have to see.
Yeah, maybe to quickly touch on to one thing. What we did see in effect in this PTS is the way their flowchart thingy is working out. So we've got 3 phases to this example conflict. The first one is scouting, Merrick versus Steiner. The second one is assault, depending on which side wins. I guess one of the sides has an extra boost, or I don't know. And then depending on which side wins, one of the sides has to defend an incursion in phase 3. So I was kind of underwhelmed by this. I was hoping we would get a bit more diversity when it came to like play modes and advantages for people winning the first phases and so on. But at least we got to see the system they're planning to do, and who knows, maybe they're going to expand on that in the future.
I'm not sure. We, of course, in this podcast aren't all really faction play people, but if you do faction play, I imagine a lot of the time it's just you enjoy doing, invasion mode. You like doing it with 4 drops. You just want to get stuck in. If you want to do scouting, you click scouting. With this, though, you have to do scouting first, and then you can actually get to the mode you like, which is a bit of a pain, actually. Like compared to the previous system, if you want to do quick play with 4 drops, you click invasion mode, you're good to go. And this is just adding lots of bells and whistles that gets in the way of, at least from my perspective, I just want to, if I want to do scouting, I click scouting. If I want to do invasion, I click invasion. And now there's all these extra bells and whistles in the way that I don't think really adds much to the game.
Didn't they actually do scouting first when they brought it to long tom, so people get the long tom?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like if you do
Still
it
in the game.
in the regular faction play, depending on your scouting results, you're gonna get advantages in the other
Okay.
games. I have not seen this implemented in this conflict type of deal, but then again, I haven't seen anyone actually fight in this conflict because there's so few people online. It might be there, maybe we're just not seeing it. So yeah, I mean, at least they're getting 5% Siebel boost for every match during the conflict. So hey, it's an incentive.
Part of
Yes.
me really wants to get back into faction warfare, but I don't know. When it comes to that compared to quick play, I haven't found that niche just yet. But I do like it whenever you do have the option for the 4 drops. I do like that idea, but beyond that,
It
though,
takes a lot more to organize a whole group together.
That's
All
the
of you have
thing.
4 drops, and all of you are planning have a battle plan in mind. Usually, that's a good idea.
Nah, that's
And
overrated.
at least, yeah, there are plenty of people who actually play it for that very reason. The bells and whistles, I'm not sure if really that helps the situation, because now you also have to make a scouting drop deck.
Oh yeah. Huh.
And everyone has to drop in their groups of 4 first, which is a huge pain in the ass if you ask me. Yeah, and all I think the biggest change in my mind is just if you increase Siebel earnings by 5-10%, you made it worth all that extra effort, and you gave extra incentives for that. You give people a well done incentive. That's all you needed to do, not all these bells and whistles.
Actually, you're
I
right.
like the bells of whistles for people like Bob who really enjoy the lore aspect of it. The one requirement those bells and whistles have at that point is properly scripted and written conflicts. So not like this example conflict.
Well, like I said,
funny,
like, are good.
A funny thing would be if you could just opt in or out of extra lore stuff. Like Bob could just click the "I want extra bells and whistles," and I just want to play the damn game.
Give me the story, damn it! While I drop on planet. Yeah, like I said, you know, if they just have just the bells and whistles, it might not do well. But of course, for people like me, I'm a lunatic, so it's a little bit different for me, and probably like Ian. But for everyone else, so it won't do anything. They need to redo the whole faction warfare on how people pick sides, how people get points, what the points do, you know, like all this kind of stuff, because it failed. You know, I mean, you go in faction warfare now, it's like, yeah, you have a couple people playing, you know, they're there, but I mean, generally, like everyone I talk to, you know, like in game and out of game, they're like, yeah, I stopped that a long time ago.
A stupid idea that came into my head would be, okay, this is an additional opt-in feature for lore nerds, is that it just auto-generates like a novel from the battles you've had, or just an auto-generated novel in general.
Oh, dude.
Choose your own adventure.
Dude.
And
I
then
would love that.
X-Killzor 5000 Sniper XX fired of LRM-20 at...
Actually, wait, Biter, hear me out. So choose your own adventure, but once the players who win the match, they all have to vote on the selection of what happens next.
Ooh.
Interesting, yeah.
Ooh.
That would be tons of fun.
You have won the battle. Do you want to A, scavenge, B, push on your advantage, or B, C, run away?
Yeah, and every player who won, they all have to vote on one of those selections. How fun would that be?
That'd be interesting to go put in there.
That would actually...
There'd be more involvement, yeah.
Yes, exactly, and that's what I freaking want. I'm sure Bob and Ian want that too.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for lore buffs. Like, that would be so fun.
And you could just have simple things of, if you push on your advantage, you get a little bit more GXP. If you loot, you get more C-bills. And if you run away, you get
I mean, with the flowchart system already existing, you could just say, if people vote retreating, you fall back to another planet and get some defensive advantages.
Ooh.
If you vote pushing on, you move to the next planet and get some offensive advantages. Stuff like that should be possible.
No, like, we need to clip that and tweet it to Russ and them, because I feel like we always have these really grandiose ideas that are not that hard to put in this game, and this one I really like. We need to push this forward.
You know, I like that idea. That actually will put some involvement. It'll make the lore freakazoids happy, and it just would be fun.
Because I feel like we've gone around this topic a lot in the past, and one of the things that faction warfare is always missing is that player involvement. That's the thing, is that, you know, faction play, I think, was first advertised as the game mode to go ahead and you can feel immersed in this giant storyline thing, and we're going to make events that have story elements, but you never feel involved. That would get the itch for involvement.
Yeah, that was before PGI took it over. They had grandiose views, like the gold mechs, type thing. But yeah, I mean, they had a really good idea for faction warfare, like planet to planet. You only have what mechs you put on those planets, and stuff like that. But this would be interesting. I like your choose your own adventure idea. That would be amazing to go and do. Like you get defensive bonus, like Ewan was saying, like when you retreat to go to different planets, type thing.
Yeah, I will tweet this to the high heavens if we clip this.
Oh, clip it.
All right, then.
Yeah, I have no problem.
Clip it. All right. So to go back to the current PTS session, I've got two minor things that are going on from a technical standpoint. They switched over to the Solaris kind of queue thing, where you enter the what's it called? The countdown thing, and when the countdown reaches 0, out of all the players currently in the countdown, it's gonna create a lobby to match elo. That is currently really annoying in the faction play thing, because the queue is actually only 8 seconds, which is ridiculous and doesn't really do anything. And if you tap out of the game to do something worthwhile while you're queuing, because queuing is obviously going to take forever, at least in the PTS, Mechwarrior starts blinking in your taskbar every 8 seconds. So usually Mechwarrior starts blinking whenever you enter a game, which is good, so you can just sit in the queue, do something else, and see when the game starts. But for this one, Mechwarrior starts blinking every time the queue resets. So you've constantly got the blinking item in your taskbar, and chances are really good you're doing something else and completely missing the fact that the game has even started.
Oh. Combining idea from last time. Every time that thing blinks over, you get a new choose your own adventure path.
There you go. Perfect. And also, I've had some minor issues with choosing my career and such, but that's just technical stuff, so nothing too interesting.
You're sitting in your dropship waiting for a drop. Do you A, play with a yo-yo, B, play some billiards, C, play space football?
I'm going to play Tetris.
D, get a cook and throw him out of the vault. Wait, what?
Get wasted in your cockpit.
Actually, that's more the choose your own adventure would be easier to do for Battletech than actually would be for Mechwarrior Online.
It would be.
Yeah. Speaking of Battletech.
Ooh, segue.
Ooh.
Expansions.
So, the new expansion, what do you guys think?
Let's start with a quick recap of what we're gonna get.
Yes.
The new Battletech expansion called Urban Warfare was announced a couple months ago, and we knew roughly what it would contain, but now we're getting details with the Steam page and announcement trailer. It is going to feature obviously new environments, cities that have a bunch of buildings which you can blow up to create cover and to open line of sight. There is going to be stuff like fuel trucks which can explode, coolant exchanger buildings, whatever that means, and a couple other types of buildings that have unique effects on you. There are going to be 2 new battle mechs, the Javelin and the Raven. There are going to be new flashpoints, presumably featuring the all cool new stuff we're going to get. 3 enemy vehicles, which honestly don't sound really impressive, except for the fact that one of them has ECM, which is going to be the main selling point of this expansion. It's going to feature electronic warfare, meaning ECM, protecting you from indirect fire, and Beagle Active Probe to get through ECM. And that's basically the expansion, which you have to buy for $20. So I believe Biter's our primarily negative citizen, so
yeah,
go ahead, Biter.
Go ahead, Biter.
Yeah, so first off, let's just cover the 2 new mechs. The Raven is interesting because this actually has electronic warfare. It's one of the earliest ones, it's sort of after the Succession Wars that brings back electronic warfare. This thing has according to the store page, a lightweight electronic warfare package, which is 7.5 tons, at least, according to Sana and other books I have on the subject. So the thing is, 7.5 tons means you have barely anything for any weapons. I wonder when they say lightweight, the electronic equipment on the Raven is actually going to be a lot lighter than Law. Nevertheless, though, two mechs, both of them are light mechs. This isn't actually very ideal because the game is you start with lights and mediums anyway, and you aren't really looking to acquire new medium light
No.
mechs. You're looking to acquire medium mechs, and then heavy, and then assault, etc., etc. So the most value you get out of new mechs is going to be mediums and heavies for DLC. And two light mechs, particularly like the Javelin, 30 tons, smaller engine than the Spider, so a little more pod space, but I think you have to stick SRMs into it usually. Just really not worth your time. At least for the mechs, they're kind of neat, but the issue I'd also have is the Raven should not be that common. It was an experimental piece of tech. It was used. It was attached to command lancers. It's not a battle mech you throw in large numbers because it was so heavily weighed down by this electronic warfare package. You had it as a support element basically. And
even also it's 3025, so there should be like 10 Ravens or so, prototype Ravens.
And not even the ECM
Exactly.
systems because they broke down a long time ago.
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty hard to gather 3 remaining bits of the Ravens. You have to destroy all the Ravens in the inner sphere to patch one together. And then when you have it, you can only bring 4 mechs into a drop. Why are you taking such a dedicated support mech? I'm guessing to make it balanced, they're going to have the Raven's ECM package be 1.5 tons. And the promotional art shows the Raven having like an SRM6 and a couple medium lasers or whatever. So, yeah, those are my misgivings about the Raven, but I think those are not so relevant. But still, you have to throw together enough parts to get a 35 tonner. And it really depends how common it is. Like mechs like the Urban Mech, you never see in combat. You have to gather the pieces, which means you build up some heavies and assaults or whatever before you actually cobble together your first Irby, which is really sad since the region of space we're in is right next to Lao, which are the prime producers of Irbies. It just makes no sense to me. The electronic warfare additions that the Raven and ECM probe and whatnot give, I don't feel is appropriate to the setting of the Succession Wars, and particularly with the periphery. I don't think the periphery would really have that much in the way of information warfare going on at this time.
Hold on. They have pirate bands with at least 60 assault mechs. Come on. I mean, come on. Everyone in the, everyone like in the periphery past, I don't know, like 10 games has assault mechs.
Yeah, it's as ever with Battletech, have you ever seen like its opening trailer? It's sort of it's imagining the big succession wars between the big different houses, but then they set themselves off in the periphery, which is a very different setting than what they imagine the game actually is.
Yeah.
Which is odd for Harebrained Schemes. Didn't they have the creator of Battletech there? Doesn't he know his setting? Anyway, what does the electronic warfare do? It mostly just hampers LRMs. That's mostly it. Like if you are trying to fire LRMs directly at a mech with ECM or under the ECM bubble, I think you can't do it unless you have a mech that is spotting with a probe or something like that. I'm not sure how exactly it'll be implemented because we only have the trailer and just the basic info to go off of. For the most part, though, because you're just using stock mechs, it's really going to be hard to justify those 1.5 tons for probes. It's kind of hard to even fit in, decent weapon loadouts to fight the 2 or 3 lancers you're going up against each time. And taking infotech just to enable your LRMs to fire indirectly really seems to just mean you don't really want to bother with LRMs unless they give some buffs to them. A funny thing with infotech is that it is only mounted on the Raven and the two of the new vehicles.
Yeah.
Both of those vehicles are 20 tons, which means if the enemy are able to use indirect fire on you because you're under ECM, you just need to destroy a squishy 20-ton vehicle. And that's the same if they have ECM, you just need to destroy the Rotunda. Same for the Raven, but if you go later game, heavies and assaults where you actually are taking a lot of LRMs, will these vehicles actually be that prevalent? Typically, at least the way they balance the game is when you're taking heavies and assaults, what you are facing are heavies and assaults. They don't throw in locusts and other little tiny vehicles against you.
Well, they throw in the...
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say they throw in the SRM 6 times what, 10 launcher? Like that little vehicle. It hits you, you're dead, but if you hit it, it's dead.
SRM carrier, yeah, it's 60 tons though. It's a lot more durable even than than a 20-ton vehicle.
Yeah.
Those 20-ton vehicles, even with max armor, you take them out with a single AC5 shot. So I don't know if the electronic warfare stuff really adds much to the game. I'm wondering what mechs can even take it beyond the Raven. Can you just shove an ECM module into any mech? Because at least against when you're facing 2 to 3 lancers each time, and all the lancers have an LRM launcher of some kind, having ECM will help your lance heavily reduce the amount of incoming fire as long as one of you take ECM.
Well, yeah, that's one thing that I mean, past a certain point though, you're just gonna scrap the Raven, grab the ECM, pop it in like in your Atlas or something like that. That's generally what's gonna happen because you can modify your mechs. Even Atlases can have jump jets. So it doesn't really go to a certain point of where the lore standard is. Atlases obviously didn't have jump jets, but you can do anything you want to them. So, I mean, that's what I would do.
I'm just really curious how they're going to handle the player trying to make use of this tech, at least as ECM as a defensive tool. And sure, the Raven's nice, but that's only relevant very early game, and that's even if you can acquire a Raven early enough in early game before it becomes obsolete. There's going to be new flashpoints. That's always just nice to add a bit more variety to the game. They can do stuff like show off the Raven, quote unquote, show off the Raven, just like how they quote unquote showed off the Hatchet Man as a corpse on the ground. That was fun.
Might survived.
I play with larger lance sizes. The city fighting is an interesting one. I do sort of like the look of the city maps. It will again helpfully reinforce the use of jump jets in the game. All my mechs never really walked anywhere anyway. And with urban warfare, they will jump everywhere anyway. I'm curious as to how it will play in the sense that usually a lot of maps are filled with cover. And that's usually what you try to abuse with bulwark, and it's a good way to reduce the incoming fire from 2 to 3 lances of enemy fire. But these cities, at least to start with, they aren't filled with cover or other special effects. You have to blow apart buildings. And at least, building destruction is already technically in the game, and each building had like 100 or so hit points, which means you actually have to spend, 1 or 2 mechs, depending on the alpha size, blowing up a building. And this could be a huge problem early game, at least trying to get a cover for early game mechs, is that your light mechs, your whole light mech alliance might take a whole turn to shoot down a building, and all you're generating is 4 squares of cover.
Yeah, I'm excited for it though because I mean, city fighting. If they have some good maps, like I know the last DLC only had 1 map, and I hope they actually make this into like a random random generated map system. So every time you play on a certain map, like city wise, it'll just be completely different. So you can't just go, okay, I'm going to go to this place and go to that place, and that's what I'm going to do. The type thing. I just hope they actually have like a random generator for it.
In terms of game balance, though, since you've got fire trucks, coolant trucks, which things that hurt the enemy, things that can help cool your mechs off, and stuff like that, a random generation doesn't always come up with very clever map design.
Really?
Just like with the other Battletech maps, I do actually like that if you have it pre-built by an actual human, they can put all the buildings together in a fashion that looks good, but also makes sense for gameplay.
Maybe different though, because you get so used to it though. To actually put some new perspective into the map system, like into doing different things instead of just going to point A, point B. Now, probably like what you're talking about is more of it just.
Well, here's a question, Bob.
Yeah.
For the first DLC with flashpoints, they introduced the new, what was it, tropical biome?
Yeah.
Those, of course, are only a select section of stock maps, so to speak. Those were all handcrafted. Did you have a problem with that implementation of this new tile set?
Not really, because I really didn't fight on that one that much. But it was at certain points I do go to, like there's a place near the water, and basically I use it to go ahead and get line of sight with my 1 scouter mech, and then basically I'll use my lerms, go indirect fire them. But it was okay. But I just think it would be better if they have a random generated map system for this, because I mean there are a lot of different cities like out there, like maybe maybe even just changing the buildings. So like if they have a loud building or a like you're in America or something like that, it'd be different or something. Just something different than the same thing.
Yeah.
I guess, but the thing is, if you played XCOM, they do like XCOM is always the example. I don't know, but XCOM does actually randomly generate the maps, and still they feel very samey after a certain point of time. So I'm not certain if the effort into creating a generation system is worth the result.
Okay.
Yeah. In the end, all you're doing is just like with the last DLC, adding a few more maps to the pool of a very large pool. And so the players on average are actually only going to come across them, once or twice on average. It depends how long you're grinding, of course. But the thing is, as the pool gets bigger, you're not going to get so tired of the map so quickly.
How many maps do you think they actually made for this though? Like how many city maps then?
I don't know. We only have the most cursory information. How many maps did they make for the last DLC? It was something like 5 or 6, and that would be my guess for this one.
Okay. Well, like if they make minimum maps, I guess if you don't play it that much, you won't experience the same exact building system or streets and stuff like that. Ooh, they got cars. That's kind of cool. Yeah, basically I'm looking at the pictures. Yeah, basically, squirrel. But like I'm looking at the pictures, that they have the screenshots, and they got some pretty cool stuff, man. But there is one thing that I saw that was kind of like interesting. They have like kind of like a force field. It's on picture number 2. It looks like a force field. I don't know what that is.
ECM bubble.
Okay, that's ECM bubble. Okay, that makes sense.
Pretty sure that should be the ECM bubble. It's somewhat visible as well in the preview footage they have, and in the preview footage they like having the Raven and Javelin running around along with the Urban Mech. Urban Mech lies. You only get that late game.
All right. So, we haven't touched on the new game mode yet, the attack and defend game mode.
Not the biggest fan of the sound of this game mode. You only have 4 mechs. You don't have a large amount of resources to commit to either task, and you're really best employed. If you're attacking the enemy and trying to take down an enemy mech, you want all 4 of your mechs to focus him down. And they're saying the enemies that are attacking you are also endless. So it's not, for the most part, the best thing is to rush the enemy base, I think. You maybe want 1 mech to be the damage pinata at home.
I don't even know if that's gonna work, because from my experience, the enemies, once they come in, the first thing they do is target the base you're defending.
Yep.
Only then focusing your defending mechs. So I see 2 options to play this. Either completely rush it with a couple of mediums and fast heavies, or just pick 4 assault mechs and slowly walk to the enemy base while annihilating everything incoming. But
it's just the thing is there are endless waves, and some of the things you have, like you get the maximum pay bonus if no buildings get destroyed, but there's always that one really tall tower that sticks above the walls. And so every single time they get into range of it, I have AC2s, blam blam. Like, you're at the edge of the map. I have to spend 2 turns running over there to stop you shooting that tower to maximize my pay. This is fair. Yes, this is totally fair.
Did we ever talk about them actually putting 12 mechs that you could go and do like a Union class dropship or something? Like, we ever talk about that?
I think we have sort of talked about that.
Yeah, we've sort of talked about
I think
this.
we've mentioned it.
I know, like, the attack and defend is cool and everything, but I mean, what resources? So, like, let's say you die because you got overwhelmed by a bunch of SERM launchers or something. What happens? Basically, like, well, I'm not going to try that again. Hell, man. Just what's going to happen, like, with your employers and everything? You're going to start losing a lot of different things.
Well, it's an interesting question with endless enemies. How do you deal with the end game? Like, you destroy the enemy base and it instantly ends the match. Everyone just stops firing. I mean, that's what happens with other game modes as well. It's just, as I said, you might as well just bum rush the enemy base before the enemy snipe it to pieces, because you're not going to win against an endless horde.
No.
There's no point in trying to fight that. Why is it endless? If it was a large enemy force, something like when you do base defense, they throw a lot of lances at you, but those numbers of lances are discrete. There's no need to have it as an infinite number. Like, having it infinite makes no sense to me, in the sense that you could focus on pure defense and fight it out, destroy all the enemy mechs, and then destroy their base. But as it stands, there's no point in the defensive option. By making it unlimited, you're just wasting your time or increasing your salvage, I guess. But the salvage options. But it just doesn't feel good fighting an endless number of enemies. The game already swarms you with foes. We didn't need more swarms.
So, is that it?
So as I said, the ECM and Beagle Pro vehicles, they're not going to have much in the way of firepower, just an SRM6 or just a large laser. They're probably going to be most likely to spawn early game when you aren't hopefully using too many LRMs. It just means your early game Vindicators are a bit sad. Poor early game Vindicators with the LRM5 or Shadowhawk or whatever LRM5. The Gallant urban assault vehicle, AC-10, LRM-10, SRM-2, 4 machine guns, 70 tons. It's just another vehicle. It's got the usual hodgepodge of weaponry.
Yeah.
Overall, just like with the Flashpoint DLC, I would not say that this is worth $20.
What? Blasphemy!
It doesn't add much of value to the game. We really need to wait and see how all these systems are implemented. Electronic warfare does not feel fitting for
3025
periphery for 3025
and the periphery. Yeah.
It also really doesn't necessarily feel fitting. I wonder. My big question is it fun? Just like when they were building the game, is it fun to add electronic warfare? Because as the game is currently implemented, you only have a lance of 4 mechs, your stock engines, your stock, possibly with Oldbobs stock loadouts or whatever.
Yeah.
You only have so much pod space. Unlike Mechwarrior Online, it's quite a commitment to shove in a Beagle probe or an ECM module, or at least you need every bit of firepower you can get because you're facing 2 to 3 times the enemy forces on the other side. You don't have tonnage to waste on electronic warfare, or in if the enemy constantly have ECM, just don't take a probe, don't take LRMs, use direct fire weapons instead. It just makes a weapon system obsolete or redundant, because why work around that problem when you could just use something else? I think in terms of new mechs, the Raven is quite a pretty mech, and at least since ECM and whatnot plays a lot into lines of sight, it does somewhat make sense to have it as a mech used in urban warfare, particularly if it has SRMs and medium lasers. It's a short range mech. The Javelin is short ranged as well with SRMs, but I don't think it's as much of a star as the Raven, and it really does not add as much to the game. Though in my head, the question would be, what other mech would we choose? Preferably like a medium or a heavy.
Well, there's a problem though. Basically, you're looking at towards this point when this is coming out, you have 4 mechs. Are you going to sacrifice? Basically, will you take a Raven with the ECM module if it could only be using that, and then 3 assault mechs? What would you do? That type thing, or would you just forget about it and just go charge in and go and kill everything because you're being swarmed with a bunch of mechs?
Well, I mean, when you're late game, you always just take 4 assault mechs. You don't want to take that Raven. It's going to get splattered instantly by, the assault lances you're up against. And the infotech bonuses are not that worth it, since most enemy mechs are stock. So they have a whole mix of direct fire and indirect fire. The ECM is only useful in reducing the... it's a bit like... it's kind of like, how AMS is kind of an iron dome.
Yeah.
But ECM kind of works that way as well, to stop something like the base LRM turrets from shooting you at range indirectly. It will reduce the rain and help you stay alive, but that rain was always actually the weakest part of the enemy enemy firepower. The enemy only got really scary, in assaults and heavies if they're hitting you with AC-20s, SRMs. They're hitting you with their direct fire alphas, and that is the thing you still have to mainly contend with. And for that, you don't want a poor little Raven running around.
Yeah.
But that's kind of why I was saying if there was a really interesting ECM heavy mech or something like that.
Like the Cyclops?
There is a Cyclops variant ECM. Cyclops doesn't have much pod space. It is not that viable an assault mech in Battletech. I would suggest maybe if we're going with Lao and ECM, you could have an ECM Cataphract. Yes, exactly. Cataphract. That is a decent 70-tonner. And just like the urban mech, for some reason, despite being right below Liao, it's really hard to find cataphracts in urban mechs. The factory's just north of here, and we can't find any. What the hell's going on? Oh, look! Here's an Arctic cheetah. Oh, well, that's fine. There's millions of them.
Okay. So there's another thing included in the Battletech Season Pass is we know what's coming out. If you guys look the progress bar, which I can't zoom in on this, but Flashpoint's already out. Urban Warfare. Next is Heavy Metal. The third Battletech expansion features a host of new battle mechs, including several that have been unseen for decades, and perhaps a surprise or two. Hopefully it's a Wasp and Stinger. I'll be so happy about that. Ooh, happy. That comes out in winter of 2019. So, like, what do you guys think about what mechs will be coming out for it?
Well, it's obviously going to be Mobota Warhammer.
Yeah.
Think so?
It better be rather than Stinger and Wasp.
Well,
Just as I said, you don't want light mechs. Light mechs are already they're very early game, and they're already mostly obsolete because you want to get bigger ones.
Maybe just popping in there just for nostalgia. Come on, that's all I want. I just want in one damn game online the Stinger and Wasp. That's all I want.
The advantage for harebrained schemes, though, is Raven, Javelin, Crab, Cyclops, Warhammer, Marauder. They have all the models from PGI. Wasp, Stinger, that's coming up with 2 new mech designs, making all the models for it and the rigs and everything, just for your optional extra. And it's a 20-tonner and a 20-tonner.
No, that's like a 30-tonner.
Both bottom of the barrel, bottom of the barrel mechs that you don't really want to. They don't add anything to the game or add much to the game.
Well, they added stuff for me for weirdos like me, basically. But still, what's that? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. I've got some closing thoughts on the Urban Warfare thing that plays into the Heavy Metal expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So far, PGI seem to have avoided putting in mechs that are already really dominant for mods. So like the Warhammer and Marauder, they had no issues putting those off because those were obviously the first mods we had for the game. And it's kind of the same thing why I think it's really weird to choose the Javelin. The Javelin is a mech that I already have through a mod that works really well in that mod. And I would have loved to see a mech that we didn't have otherwise. And coming to your mechs, the Stinger and Wasp, I have both of those in my Battletech game. They're both really terrible, to the point where the spider's literally better.
I just want to have it in an online game. That's it. I don't care if it sucks. I don't care. I want the Stinger Wasp just in one online game. That's it. That's all I want. Just to say it came in the game.
Right. Yeah, to anyone interested in the audience, check out the Battletech mod, Battletech Expanded 3025. It's a lore-friendly mech that adds lore-friendly mechs available at this point of time. And it's a really wide variety of mechs and vehicles, and it's really good.
Can you expand on that, though?
So what mechs would you like to have seen in this expansion, Ian? Just curious.
At this point, I honestly don't know.
Yeah, like what mechs would be good? Like, I would have said following. I had a good idea that I realized it was a really. It's like, oh well, last time we had Hatchet Man, that was really neat. Well, now we have the Axe Man. Isn't it that 70 tonner?
Yeah, it's the bigger version of it.
Yeah, those both seem really at home in an urban warfare environment. And that would require them to actually make a new model, and that would be really cool. Reinforce the melee in the game, something special that Battletech has. But no, we're just getting more light mechs to add to the pile of things that I don't collect because I'm getting mediums. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well.
So I guess we can do some closing thoughts on the expansion. Even though I'm usually the Battletech advocate in this podcast, I cannot wholeheartedly recommend picking up this expansion as a pre-order. And it pains me to say this, but wait, get it on sale. I don't think it's worth $20.
You're kidding.
If you have the season pass, look forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But beyond supporting the studio, I do not think I would pick this one up for $20.
Even if they actually, made crap, I would still give them $20. Basically, like for as far as like this, what I'm gonna say is, I support harebrained schemes for the simple fact is, basically, obviously the creator's in there, but it's more of a just they have a really good idea of how Battletech is and want to implement it. Yeah, this might not have a crap ton of different things that we expect for, but for $20, so to support these guys. doing more and more stuff. I mean, like after like winter 2019, 2020, they might have the clans coming out. So they kind of need more money to bring that out. And I'm sure, I mean, people are going to go foaming at the mouth for the clans. Go coming in at like 30, 50 and doing a whole new type of storyline. And so, like, you know, I don't mind giving them $20. It doesn't bother me. Even if this doesn't pan out to like what I, so excited about for, if it doesn't pan out, I still want to support this company because they are, obviously the creator. So, I just want to do that.
Yeah, that's why I said beyond supporting the studio. Obviously,
yeah,
I bought it. Obviously, I mean, after all, I've bought the base game 4 times now.
What? Wow.
Well, I gifted it to.
Oh, okay.
My dad,
okay.
Friends and such, and I had no issue buying the game multiple times, even though they could have technically played on my account, because I want to support the studio.
Yeah.
But beyond supporting the studio, I could not get myself to spend $20 on this.
I mean, I bought the game for my wife too. Basically, back in the day, she hasn't played it yet, but hey, I still support it. I still support it, and then my wife has it now.
Yes.
I mean, this could lead into discussion later on, perhaps about the fact that with Paradox Games, Paradox does like to produce expensive DLC that slowly but surely adds more bits and pieces to the game, so it slowly builds up over time. And each individual piece isn't necessarily worth it, but over time the games do get a lot better, and that's usually how they develop their games. I would say the thing is with Battletech's pitch in Urban Warfare, the trailer is just all noise and just fighting mechs. Yeah, I know, I've done that for a while now. The most fun features or interesting features I would imagine if I was selling it is, well, Urban Warfare. It's a much more clustered environment, close range weapons. You can actually get close to the enemy.
Gotcha, man.
Do a lot more melee, this, that, and the other. How does it play? Most of the maps are big open fields, and therefore at least for me, my playstyle usually involves a lot of ranged builds. You just snipe the enemy as they charge pell-mell towards you. Urban Warfare, I'll have to really have a different set of mechs or a different playstyle to adopt in those circumstances. And the same thing, ECM, Beagle Probe, all that kind of stuff can really change things up and add more, variety to the gameplay. But that isn't what they've sold us. They haven't explained to us yet those mechanics. And who knows? Those could be very interesting. It's just on the surface, particularly after Flashpoint, I'm still sort of saying there's not much to this DLC, and the way you're selling it is really not getting me excited.
Quick thought, completely out of context. I would have loved that instead of getting the system of electronic warfare, we would have gotten a system of clubs and melee weapons and being able to pick up trees.
Or they pick up arms, and a battle mech like salvage, pick up their leg and beat him with it. Yeah, definitely.
Just quickly throw this in without discussion.
That'd be cool. Okay, so that's Battletech for you for 1999, coming out to June 6th, I believe, right? June 4th, sorry. June 4th, that's Battletech coming out, Urban Warfare. So next we have the Mechwarrior 5 specs. Who was, I think is Hototuken was I guess harassing Russ about this, about getting the specs out, because he really wanted the specs and figure out like what he needed to do. But the specs, we finally have the specs of what you need to go run this game with.
So yeah, the specs are obviously most of the time minimum system requirements. You don't even pay attention to it because you've got something better than that anyway. But this time I think there are some interesting information in here. First off, quick disclaimer. The stats posted here are minimum system requirements. I'd expect you can run the game on an i3 or a Ryzen 3 without issues, but do not expect to be able to run the game properly with a GTX 770 or 4GB of RAM. Like, if you want a decent experience, you're gonna need more than that. But
they only show minimum rather than optimum specs, which is the more interesting one.
Yeah, I honestly gonna expect you gonna need at minimum 8GB of RAM, 1050 Ti and upwards. I mean, i3, Ryzen 3 should still be fine. So the interesting things though, OS, Windows 7 and upwards. No Linux support, no macOS. Well, obviously no macOS, but no Linux support. I think that one's interesting to some people. The game's gonna be 80 GB, so prepare your internet connection and prepare your bandwidth to actually download that.
Yeah.
DirectX.
So many big textures. That's a huge game.
Yeah. DirectX 11 only. I was surprised to see that. I would have expected DirectX 12, but I guess fine.
And like, what are we on right now?
We're looking at the minimum specs. That's
No, basically what I'm saying, like DirectX though.
DirectX 12 is the current standard for modern game.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can run it on the earlier version, but I'm guessing optimum is 12, version 12.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Then the really cool news: internet connection required. You do not need internet connection for single-player games. Whoosh.
That's cool.
I mean, it shouldn't be cool, but sadly, we live in a time where that's actually good news.
Yeah.
Good news, everyone.
You don't need the internet.
Yes.
Well, the problem is you need the internet to download it. So.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
But
only snag would be no local co-op
and host co-op games. Yeah, so there's no LAN parties, I guess.
No LAN parties.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Oh well.
The game is going to be quite open to modding, though, so I imagine it would be doable to make it LAN friendly if anyone wanted to do that.
You don't even need to mod the game. Probably you can just do a like redirect your internet. Oh, what's it called? I forgot the name. But you can basically redirect your internet connection to a local connection and do it that way. Also, one thing to quickly mention, those minimum specs are obviously not going to help you with ray tracing. If you want ray tracing, you're going to need an RTX. Probably 2060 upwards. I don't expect 2050 or anything lower is going to want RTX.
Yeah, only the minimum specs were given to us. We want to know the optimum specs, though. The issue, at least, with giving specs early on is you don't actually know how well it will run towards the end of development. When you actually pull everything together and you've ironed out as much as you can and you put in all the features that you can, that is when you really know how smoothly it will run on all the different hardware. And particularly with PCs, there's just so many different hardware specs and quirks to different hardware. It's really hard to do specs, and it's a bit like a progress bars. You just sort of have to give people a rough guesstimation of what sort of works and what sort of doesn't. And the earlier you do it, the more rough you have to give this estimation.
Thank you for watching the First Trigger Podcast number 83. Tonight's hosts were Biter.
Exploding Butts.
Oh, God. Ian.
Bye-bye.
Larsh.
I'll see you later.
And myself, Oldbob. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you on the battlefield.